Captain Marcus Webb stood at the edge of the crowded trade outpost marketplace, his stomach turning at what he was witnessing. A slaver's auction. Several Velrani women being presented as contract laborers, a legal fiction that disguised actual slavery in frontier regions where official law enforcement was minimal to non-existent. Marcus had been running cargo in frontier space for 8 years. He'd seen this kind of thing before, always hated it, but he was one person with limited resources. He couldn't save everyone. The universe was full of injustices he was powerless to fix. But watching these particular women, 4 of them, clearly terrified despite trying to maintain dignity, being treated as property and discussed like livestock, he couldn't just walk away. They were being sold as a group. 4 healthy Velrani females suitable for domestic labor, technical work, or whatever purposes the buyer requires, the slaver announced with practiced indifference. Starting bid: 15,000 credits for the lot. Marcus did quick mental math. He had 18,000 credits in operational capital, money he needed for fuel, supplies, ship maintenance, living expenses. Spending it on impulse to free strangers would leave him dangerously low on resources. He bid anyway. 18,000 credits for all 4, he called out. The slaver looked delighted. Sold. Excellent doing business with you. 20 minutes later, the 4 Velrani women were being transferred to Marcus's ship custody, still restrained, clearly expecting their situation to continue under new ownership. Marcus got them into his ship's secure passenger area, intended for legitimate passengers, not for captives, and immediately began removing their restraints. "What are you doing?" the eldest asked, her voice tight with confusion and fear. "Setting you free," Marcus said simply. "I'm taking you to the nearest properly settled system where you can contact your people or authorities. I'm not keeping you as property or labor. You're free passengers who I'm helping get to safety." The women stared at him with expressions mixing disbelief, confusion, and desperate hope that this wasn't some cruel trick. Marcus continued. "This ship has secure quarters you can use, doors locked from the inside, you control access. There's food in the galley, medical supplies if you need them. Communication systems are available if you want to try contacting anyone. When we reach the settled system in 3 days, you can contact whoever you want, family, authorities, anyone. I'll provide documentation showing you were purchased and freed, not that you escaped. You're not fugitives. You're people I'm helping get home." The youngest, she couldn't be older than early 20s in human terms, spoke. "Why? What do you want from us?" "Nothing. You were being sold as slaves. That's wrong. I had money to prevent it, so I did, that's all." "No one does that," the eldest said, still wary. "No one spends money to free strangers without expecting something in return." "Then I guess I'm no one," Marcus said. "Look, I understand you don't trust me yet. That makes sense given what you've been through. Take your time. The quarters are yours, the doors lock. I won't enter without permission. Food, medical supplies, communication access, all available. 3 days to the settled system, then you're free to go wherever you want." He left them to process this, returning to the ship's bridge to set course. Over the next 3 days, the women slowly began to believe he meant what he said. They were cautious, clearly traumatized, but gradually they could see Marcus was genuinely helping them without expecting anything in return. During the 3-day journey, Marcus learned fragments of their story carefully, without pressing, just listening when they chose to share. They'd been taken years ago during a raid on a remote settlement, sold multiple times across different systems. Their identities had been deliberately erased, documentation destroyed, names changed, any connection to their previous lives severed to prevent tracking or identification. The eldest introduced herself as Kira, her sisters, Sira, Lyra, and Myra. They were cautious about sharing more detailed background, and Marcus didn't push. "Your past is yours to share when and if you want to," he told them. "I'm just helping you get to safety. What happens after that is your choice." Marcus noticed things about them. Despite years of trauma and captivity, there was unusual bearing in how they carried themselves. Dignity and intelligence that suggested significant background before their capture. But he didn't probe. Whatever their story was, it was theirs to tell when they were ready. "Why did you do this?" Kira asked during a conversation on the second day. "You spent significant money to free us. Money you clearly needed. I've seen how you're calculating fuel efficiency to stretch your resources. Why?" "Because you needed help and I could provide it. That's enough reason." Most people would say that's naive. That you can't save everyone, so why bankrupt yourself trying? "I can't save everyone, but I could help you so I did. The fact that I can't fix everything doesn't mean I shouldn't fix what I can." Sira, the second eldest, observed. "You treat us like people, not like property you purchased, not like charity cases you pity, just people. Because that's what you are, people who deserve to not be property." When they reached the settled system, a properly governed world with actual law enforcement and Velrani diplomatic presence, Marcus helped them contact authorities. "I'm Captain Marcus Webb, independent cargo operator. I purchased these 4 women from a slaver's auction at Outpost Kepler 3 days ago. I freed them immediately and brought them here so they could contact their people and authorities. I have documentation of the purchase and liberation if needed." The Velrani authorities who arrived were initially suspicious. A human with custody of 4 Velrani women could suggest trafficking rather than liberation. But Kira immediately clarified. "This human freed us. He purchased us from slavers and immediately released us, helped us reach safety, asked nothing in return. He's the reason we're alive and able to return home. If you're arresting anyone, it should be the slavers, not him." The authorities' suspicion shifted to puzzlement. "You freed them without knowing if they could compensate you, without asking for reward." "I freed them because they were being sold as slaves. That was reason enough." The authorities took the 4 women into protective custody. Not arrest, but official care while they verified identities and arranged proper repatriation. They thanked Marcus for his humanitarian action while clearly still puzzled by his motivations. "You're free to go, Captain. Though I imagine these women will want to properly thank you once their situation is resolved." "No thanks necessary. I'm just glad they're safe." Marcus prepared to leave. His operational capital was depleted. He needed to find cargo work to rebuild his finances, and his part in this situation was complete. But as he headed back to his ship, Kira caught up with him. "Why?" she asked again. "Why spend money you clearly couldn't spare to free strangers? Why help us without asking anything in return? I need to understand." "Because you needed help and I could provide it," Marcus repeated. "Because people aren't property and shouldn't be treated as such. Because doing the right thing doesn't require calculating what you'll get out of it. That's all. There's no complicated answer. You're either very naive or very brave. I'm not sure which. Probably both. Take care of yourselves. I hope you find your family and rebuild your lives." "We will because of you." Marcus returned to his ship, planning to quietly leave once he'd refueled. His involvement was over. He'd done what he could. Now he needed to figure out how to keep his ship operating with dangerously depleted finances. What he didn't know, what no one knew yet, was that he just freed the 4 daughters of the most powerful ruler in the Velrani Empire. The Velrani authorities ran standard identification protocols on the 4 rescued women, expecting to match them with missing person reports or family inquiries that would help with repatriation. What they got instead sent shockwaves through the entire diplomatic corps. The identifications matched royal genetic markers. These 4 women were Princess Kira, Princess Sira, Princess Lyra, and Princess Myra, the 4 daughters of Queen Lyra of the Velrani Empire. They'd been missing for 7 years, presumed dead after a coordinated attack destroyed a remote royal estate where they'd been staying. The Queen had searched for years, but when no trace was found and no ransom demands came, they'd eventually been declared officially deceased. The conspirators who'd organized the kidnapping had done their work well, sold the princesses far from Velrani space, deliberately erased their identities through forged documentation and systematic record destruction, ensured they'd never be recognized or tracked back to their royal origins. For 7 years, the daughters of the Velrani queen had been slaves, sold multiple times across frontier systems, their true identities hidden from everyone including themselves after years of trauma and deliberate erasure. Until a human cargo captain bought them at a remote outpost and immediately set them free without knowing who they were. Senior diplomatic officials immediately contacted Queen Lyra with news that would change everything. Your daughters are alive, all 4 of them, rescued by a human who freed them without knowing their identity or value. Queen Lyra arrived at the settled system within hours, bringing massive security presence and her entire senior council. She'd mourned her daughters for 7 years, carried that grief while maintaining her duties as ruler, accepted they were gone, and she'd never know what happened to them. The reunion was overwhelming. 4 daughters she'd thought dead for 7 years, alive, standing before her, returned by a human who'd simply done the right thing without knowing its significance. After the initial emotional storm, embraces, tears, confirmation that they were real and alive and home, the queen asked them to explain everything. They told her, 7 years of captivity, multiple sales, identities deliberately erased, hope fading that anyone was looking for them. Then a human captain at a remote outpost bought them and immediately freed them. Didn't ask who they were, didn't demand information, didn't expect reward, just helped them because they needed help. Where is this human now? The queen asked. He was preparing to leave, Kira said. He helped us contact authorities, verified we were safe, and planned to simply depart. He doesn't know who we are. We never told him because we barely remembered ourselves after years of having our identities erased. Bring him to me, immediately. Marcus was refueling his ship, calculating how to afford cargo contracts with his depleted operational capital, when Velrani security forces arrived at his docking bay. Captain Webb, Queen Lyra requests your immediate presence. This is not optional. Marcus followed them, confused and increasingly concerned. Had he somehow violated protocols by freeing the women? Was he about to be arrested for interfering with some legal process he didn't understand? He was brought to a secure diplomatic facility where Queen Lyra waited, surrounded by advisors, security, and the 4 women he'd freed. The queen studied him with intense focus. You are the human who purchased my daughters and freed them. Marcus's mind went blank. Your daughters, your majesty, I had no idea. You purchased 4 women at a remote slaver's auction, freed them immediately, helped them reach safety, without knowing they were the lost princesses of the Velrani Empire. I freed them because they were being sold as slaves, your majesty, not because I knew they were royalty. I didn't know who they were beyond 4 people who deserved to not be property. Queen Lyra continued studying Marcus with an intensity that made him profoundly uncomfortable. You spent significant money, most of your operational capital, according to the reports I've received, to free 4 strangers. Why? Because they needed help and I could provide it, your majesty. That was reason enough. Most beings would have at minimum asked about compensation or reward once they learned the people they'd freed could pay. You simply freed them and prepared to leave. I didn't free them for reward, your majesty. I freed them because they were people being treated as property. Finding out there, your daughters doesn't change what I did or why I did it. Kira stepped forward. Mother, he never asked about our background, never pressed for information. When I asked why he helped us, he said helping people who needed it was reason enough. He means it. He genuinely helped us without knowing who we were or what helping us might be worth. Queen Lyra was quiet for a long moment. Captain Webb, do you understand what you've done? You've returned my daughters, my heirs, alive after 7 years of mourning. You've done this without knowing their significance, without knowing the political implications, simply because you saw people who needed help. That kind of genuine compassion is rare, profoundly rare. I'm glad they're home safely, Your Majesty. That's all I wanted. I owe you a debt that cannot be measured. I want to provide compensation, titles, formal honors that recognize what you've done. Your Majesty, I don't want reward for doing what was right. I'm just glad your daughters are safe. That's enough. You're refusing the gratitude of a queen. I'm saying I helped because they needed help, not to earn gratitude or reward. I'm genuinely happy they're home with you. That's sufficient outcome for me. Queen Lyra looked at her daughters, then back to Marcus. You actually mean that? You genuinely helped without expecting anything in return? Yes, Your Majesty. That kind of moral courage, helping without calculating advantage, that's what I value most. It's also exceptionally rare. She paused. I insist on at minimum restoring the operational capital you spent on their freedom. That's not reward, that's basic fairness. You shouldn't be financially crippled for doing the right thing. Marcus recognized this wasn't an argument he'd win. If Your Majesty insists, I'll accept that. Not as reward, but as practical necessity. Good. Additionally, I want you to understand the broader implications of what you've done. Your action has revealed that my daughters were alive, has exposed the conspiracy that erased them, and has given me back what I thought I'd lost forever. The relationship between humanity and the Velrani Empire will be strengthened by what you've done, not through calculation, but through simple human compassion shown when you didn't even know its significance. Over the following weeks, the political implications rippled outward. The conspiracy that had kidnapped the princesses was uncovered and dismantled. The slavers who'd kept them in captivity were prosecuted. Queen Lyra personally advocated for stronger human Velrani diplomatic and economic ties, citing one human's profound compassion as proof that humanity deserved respect and partnership. Marcus returned to his cargo hauling, his operational capital restored, his life essentially unchanged except for one thing. He'd saved 4 people who turned out to be princesses, had changed galactic politics without intending to, and had proven that sometimes the most important things we do are the choices we make when helping people without calculating what we might gain from it. Months later, Princess Kira contacted him. You changed our lives by seeing us as people worth helping rather than as potential profit or political advantage. You gave us our family back. That matters more than you'll ever know. Marcus's response was characteristic. I'm just glad you're safe and home where you belong. That's what mattered. You're either remarkably humble or genuinely don't understand what you did. I understand I helped 4 people who needed it. Everything else, the politics, the implications, the royal connection, that's just circumstances that happen to be attached. The important part is that you're safe and home. The human who'd bought 4 slaves and immediately freed them had rescued the daughters of a queen without knowing it. His choice to help without expecting reward had changed political dynamics between species, uncovered a conspiracy, and restored a royal family thought broken forever. All because he'd looked at people being sold as property and decided that was wrong, regardless of who they were, regardless of what helping them might cost, simply because people deserved freedom and dignity. Sometimes the most significant acts are done without knowledge of their full importance. Sometimes the most valuable things we do are the choices we make when helping others with